Here are some highlights of this program.
Hello everybody.
Welcome to Brainstorm exclusive interview.
Our education should be corrected, adapted, and updated.
Live better, they can send their children to school because they can interact with their authorities.
Mechanics, electricity, computer science, innovation, yeah.
And we know that this Brainstorm.
You yourself, after watching this interesting program, notice the final statement made by our notable guest, a brand new one.
Hello everybody, welcome to this program. The fight against corruption in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, dream or reality? Will the battle against this anti-value be won or lost? And what should be the contribution of every Congolese citizen? To answer all these questions, I am pleased to host on this stage an outstanding long-time translator and interpreter. His name is Yulu Kabamba Alphonse. Hello, sir.
Hi.
I'm really delighted just to welcome you on this stage.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I can see you in good shape, right?
Yes, indeed.
Right. Thank you for coming and answering this invitation. The topic today we want to brainstorm, right? This is a brainstorm with the fight against corruption in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. But before we get started, I'd like you just to try to explain, to define or breaking down this concept. What is corruption?
Corruption is a set of bad practices. I may even say a set of illegal practices through which some people in a position of power take advantage of their position to abuse and to gain more than what is owed to them. And then some people grow richer because of corruption, and countries grow poorer, populations grow poorer because of corruption. Let me just mention one case we've just experienced. That is with Afghanistan. Look at that devastation, the collapse of the army, the collapse of the whole government, the collapse of the whole system. It's due to corruption. That the story we have heard.
All right, so as far as the Democratic Republic of Congo is concerned, this concept corruption, you think, is it worthwhile talking, breaking it down, this concept in Democratic Republic of Congo?
Yes, corruption in the Democratic Republic of Congo should be fought at two different levels, two prongs. A fight needed to fight corruption in the Democratic Republic of Congo at the individualistic level for people involved in corruption and people who are gaining everything, who are having 90% of all the wealth of the country concentrated in their hands. There is need for a fight at that level. But this corruption comes a long way. And this corruption is like a system. So there is another aspect, another dimension to fight that corrupt system. I think I would use the two prongs: corruption at the individualistic level and corruption as a system in the Congo. And it dates long. Please to note to this level that corruption is not only in the DRC. Corruption is goes back long time ago in the history of humanity. Even the Aristotle talked about corruption, but there have been different approaches depending on the society. People try to combat corruption. So in some countries, you would see the level is high. In other countries, the level is low. It is deplorable for the DRC.
Okay, so now let's mostly focus on the DRC. I know that it's a commonplace, it's an anti-value that is fought everywhere around the world. So what are major reasons in Congo that anti-value is promoted and needs to be fought?
For Congo, why should corruption as an anti-value be combated? It should be combated because of the devastation it has caused. Look at the number of the jobless people. Look at the number of the rich people. Look at the lack of middle class. There is no middle class because of corruption. All the wealth of the country focused in the hands of some families only. People are poor, and look at the level of education. Corruption has pervaded the whole system. That is the reason why it should be combated.
And so where should the fight start from? Because it is at all level, even it's lower classes and mid and higher level and so on. But where should the fight start from?
If I have any advice to give to the leadership, the current approach is the right one. The current approach is a right one because they are tracking down those people who have concentrated the wealth of the country in their hands. That is very positive. You know, the negative sanctions, using the legislation, using the judiciary machinery. But on the other hand, I would suggest that they fight corruption as a system. As a system, it means that they have to come up with a mechanism and they have to think a lot what it takes. What should we do to combat corruption like in the public administration? Okay, the public service. What to do exactly? They have to come up with the regulations. For example, using even the simple cleaner in the street, there should be a contract. And the contract should be very exhaustive and also explain how to pay the staff members. You know, if we have regulations, I think it will be a great thing.
I think I hope that it's not only high, but most of people will agree with you, just with the great ideas and where the fight should start in order to cope with this crisis. But I'd like you just to tell us, because we're going to move to the next step now. What do you think, even though we are positive about the fight against corruption, but there are people justifying upholding this anti-value simply because people live in poverty, people live in suffering? So what is your observation? What can you say about this mentality, way of thinking?
We, as Congolese, when we gain independence, what we said, we say to ourselves a number of things. Gaining independence, now we're going to enjoy. Now we're going to... So the leadership has to change the paradigm. If I'm working, if I'm head of states, if I am a government official, my purpose, my aim is to make my people richer, is to make my country rich and richer. If we could work like that, if I have electricity the whole day, the whole year, I should now start thinking, do my people have electricity the whole year? I could just start working for them to have that electricity. So let us working to give the privileges to the people we work for, the people who voted for us. I think that will be the very good paradigm.
But okay, it's good, but let's be pragmatic. I think there are others who think that this is really a shortcut, because when I have the possibility of having a certain privilege in society, have the access of having some advantages in society, you think the corruption is a shortcut. This is the way some of the people think. So you think that logic, that the reasoning always works in the Congolese community?
I think we should always start somewhere. I should be alone. I should be alone. I should start, even though I don't reap the benefit immediately. But one day, people will recognize all the efforts I was putting. It's a matter of deciding whatever happens. People may see what you're doing or not. You may have reward immediately or not. But let everyone be enlightened and come up with a personal decision. This is what I'm doing, whatever it takes and whatever the cost.
All right, so you seem to be pessimistic, I mean, and there are other people who can really support you in your ideas that the fight is possible. So there are those who still are negative. You think that the fight is lost in advance simply because most of the people are negative?
No, I think people, that is with history. We have the pessimistic people and we have the optimistic. I think you get it wrong maybe, but I am one of the most optimistic person. I believe, and I want everybody to believe that it may happen one day. And I begin to see the trend, the current trend is positive. It may lead to something in one day in future. But what I still recommend is that we fight the system that is rot.
So is the matter, is this problem the system or the state's issue or every Congolese citizen's issue?
I told you that we have to go with the two-pronged system, fighting corruption at individualistic level, punishing, coming up with the positive sanctions, with the negative sanctions as well. But we need to fix the system. It's not normal to have somebody walking away with salary of 1,000 people. Nobody checking, nobody auditing. Let me tell you right away, if you want to, one short story. I'm an interpreter in the past, way back in the past. We had to work for SADC. There should be a head of state summit. We signed a contract, but one day before the event, it was cancelled. But somebody left South Africa, came here, an accountant, came to the DRC 48 hours later, and we heard a call, please come join me at that hotel. And the four of us, or the interpreters, we went there, we met the guy, and he paid us the money. What we read, honesty. You know, every institution is called upon to be honest. Even the government should develop honesty. Now he paid us, and then we said, why did you pay us? Why did you rush to come to the DRC to pay us? He said, oh no, honesty is key. I'm an accountant, and there will be audit. If somebody comes to audit me, 48 hours, such is the rule. 48 hours, you have a document, a piece of document you have to pay. You haven't paid 48 hours, you will be in jail. So that's why, having that in mind, I decided to pay my way, all the way come to the DRC, to pay. Then I'll be able to justify when the auditor comes in. Look, I didn't hold the money for the deadline, 48 hours. If we have such a mechanism like in the DRC, I cannot see an authority today, and an audit for an authority. Why didn't do that? We have, time doesn't mean anything.
Okay, that's from your own experience. It's good just to say that there are other people who could also relate their own experience. Honesty pays according to you. But would you try to help the audience to know, apart from honesty, are there any other values that could be promoted in order to fight or to cope with bribery? Because you seem to quote or to mention honesty. Is there any other qualities that could be promoted?
Yes, of course. But I look at it as a matter of being honest, not cheating. What you owe is what you pay. And the time set for the payment is the deadline that you keep. In Congo, we have to learn to keep the time. That is a problem, to keep the deadline. That is another issue that I've seen.
But it seems
here.
that a lot of people are not serious when it comes to keeping the deadline, when it keeping to keeping his promise, his commitments is very difficult.
And you know why? Mostly that comes from the authorities, because the authority knows that nobody else is coming to check.
But do you think that it's only the matter of the problem that authorities should fix? It's not everybody, but it seems that authorities are the only one just to fix a problem, and is the only one to be blamed for this problem. And Congolese people are not to blame for this thing.
No, I think get me right. It's everybody's responsibility to fight corruption, but at different level.
And you personally, to what
individual level would not come up with the mechanism, would not make the legislation, but the authority can initiate that.
All right, so now let's talk about the establishment of the rule of rights. So we want to know the connection between the rule of law in the Democratic Republic of Congo. I don't know, you are well placed to tell us if it's already effective, and the fight against corruption. Is there any link between rule of law and corruption?
Rule of law also means fighting corruption. I personally, the way I view things now unfolding, I would say there's some progress already being made and being made. I would applaud. We have to be fair, and we have to congratulate where we need to congratulate. What the president is doing is good, very good. Now, what is missing in that? Personally, I want him to instruct each and every institution in the DRC to come up with the regulations.
But it's
For
very
example,
tough to me
when to pay, how to pay people, when to pay people, how to pay people. Let's set the house in order. For example, let us have the codification of every job. Even the cameraman would look into a document with the parliament to say, okay, this is the codification for my job. And this is what is said. And this is when I work. This is what I should expect in terms of salary. When I worked, and this is the time frame for me to get my salary.
But people are not used to living like that. People are not used to living like that.
It means changing the way. Because corruption brings in the way of living. And that way of living which has been totally wrong. Look at the number of people who cannot even afford medical health in the country. I was at a hospital once, and clinic, I think Galiema, that's in Tambo, but look, it was just for a case of fever with a child, and they charged $750 just for 2 nights. And I asked them, are you in the DRC or are you in America? Do you mean to serve the country or not? You're dealing with people who are poor. I think we need to change our way to understand that we have to lift our country all together, not just one single person, but all of us together. And everybody must learn to do the right thing.
Okay, I'd like you to tell the audience just so the right way and to be clear. Have you ever been a victim of corruption? You yourself as an employer, because you're a translator, you've been in the field for many years. Have you ever been a victim of corruption?
Several times as interpreter. You might work somewhere and somebody has taken what was due to you, has taken like 60% of what is due to you. And the main justification is that, I am the one who called you. I am the one who did this for you. So if it's like $1,000, he will give you 400 or 500. He take all the money, Why? Because of that. And in a number of cases, you don't have even to discuss. You don't see any documents saying that this is how much we're going to pay you. In something that is imposed, all those are illegal ways. That's what I'm saying. The most important right now is in this fight against corruption in this struggle to promote the rule of law, we need to have regulations everywhere. We need to know how many jobs do we have in the DRC. And we need to have regulations for everything. And we need to come up with, even the little thing needs regulation. It means that as a country, we are brainy people, we are thinking, we don't mean to cheat, we want transparency, and we want people to understand their rights. It's a matter of respecting the rights.
At the outset of this program, I just presented you or introduced you as an interpreter, a translator. But you also, when we talked before coming on the stage, you say you are religion, you are a Christian, you pray, and you even praise or uphold some values, some qualities. So you think that religion has a role to play when it comes to cope with bribery in the Democratic Republic of Congo? Because we know that many Congolese people are religious. You think that religion has something to play as a role to cope with bribery?
Yes, indeed. Not only religion, but also universities, schools, where people go to learn, to be educated. I think people need education. Education matters. And education, if you go by the Latin definition, educare and so on, it means fixing things in somebody's mind. It means giving new direction to somebody who came as an ignorant, but at the end of the study you check that the person is no longer ignorant. You check that the person is now brainy and the person is now enlightened. You understand that? So taking different course, and that course is definitely for development. And we need to see development in countries like ours for people to believe, because it's been a long history and going from the independence, but we're not seeing much. We need to start seeing there's electrical power for all. We need to start seeing that there is food for all. We need to start seeing that we do have better infrastructure. So I think that's better.
According to your explanations, I think that once corruption is people fight, people try to do their best just to sensitize a lot of people, and then life will be better. The country can also get developed through that, because you mentioned many good things, social welfare and so on. You think corruption is really just an obstacle to all these things?
Corruption is indeed an obstacle, according to me.
But it's a
commonplace. Yeah, of course. But my personal experience as I view it, why do people indulge in corruption? It's better to take that approach. They indulge in corruption either because they want to be richer, because they want to be powerful. When I'm driving a most luxurious car, and I purchased it not with my salary, people will be respecting me because that is they trained in the society. Others, because I'm poor, I'm not getting enough. And look at my children, they don't have enough. I want to feed them. So the best way for me is to go through corruption. That is also the way. But let everybody understand that we're working to be honest, and honesty pays sooner or later. In future, maybe 10 years, maybe a century later, look at the Aristotle, the Socrates. Today we're talking about them. We're living not only for the present time, but we're living for a longer period of time, and also, if possibly, to
be honest,
for all the time of history.
To be honest, can you truthfully tell to the audience watching you now that you've never corrupted in your life, just to have access to certain advantages, to certain privileges in life? Can you honestly tell them like this?
No. I wouldn't say that, and I'll be totally wrong.
Why?
But because all of us, at one stage or another, knowingly or unknowingly, got involved in corruption. If you look at the definition of corruption, it's huge. If you look at what the Bible says, that the corrupt body, we have a corrupt body, but what matters the most is when we have the mechanism enlightening us. People know I should do this, I should not do that. It's written in the book. The legislation bans this. This is the most important. Knowingly, unknowingly, all of us are corrupt. But, all of us are making an effort to be just and to be fair. That is the most important. But we need to make recommendations as we see that we have suffered, as we see that we have lost. Look at the country, the state in which the country is. A country rich in mineral resources, a country rich in the youth, the young people, but look how it is.
Okay, I'm really happy, dear audience who are watching us now, that my guest is really brainy. The way he's explaining things and the fight against corruption, it really matters, specifically in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. So I'd like you just to sum up. It's just 1 minute to what we talked about. What are some steps, some main steps just toward fighting corruption in the Democratic Republic of Congo? And you give also your contribution.
Yeah. The Democratic Republic of Congo does not deserve such conditions, does not deserve such a level of, it does not deserve such a high level of poverty. The Democratic Republic of Congo deserves better than many developed countries. That is possible, and I believe what it takes for us is discipline. We need to be disciplined. We need to reject corruption. We need to opt for best things like rule of law, for example. That is better. We need such things for our country, and I personally believe, and it's not to be done by one person only, the presidents, the government, but by everybody. Everybody must commit to this task and to do their best so that this country may be a better one, where there will be honey, a lot of honey, where people will stop going look abroad, to become rich, but they will feel comfortable in their own country, where children will be happy, where everybody will be happy because they can enjoy good health, because they can live better, they can send their children to school, because they can interact with their authorities, because the authorities would understand that I'm an authority and I have to serve other people. That is the primary task.
Okay, I thank you so much, Mr. Yulu Kabamba, for your explanations. It was a very interesting interacting with you on this topic of the fight against corruption in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Thank you for coming. I'm really pleased, and I hope that the messages are sent to the audience who were watching us. Thank you, dear viewers, for watching this program. We know that this brainstorm is a concept which involves the discussion, breaking down different issues about social life. And we are very, very grateful for all those who want us to stay tuned in a second channel. And see you next time.